Well, Muslim Brotherhood's target today, primary target, is Israel. Okay? You've seen enough coming out of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Iran about Israel and destroying Israel. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood has exactly the same goal. Even though the Muslim Brotherhood is Sunni and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the regime in Iran are Shia, two different sects within Islam, they have a common goal, and that is the destruction of Israel. And within 1 week after things started occurring in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood came up and overtly said, prepare for war. Now is the time to go against our enemies in Israel. And I believe that there's a very high probability that we're going to see that happen. Now, Libya is a different situation. Not that the Muslim Brotherhood isn't very much part of this, but Libya is very much a civil war. You have two major sectors in Libya, east and west. In the east are the ancient Phoenicians, the descendants of the ancient Phoenicians. That's the tribes that Muammar Gaddafi is from. That's in the west. In the east, you have the ancient Syrenes. Go back in biblical times. The Syrenes, C-Y-R-E-N-E-S. The Syrenes actually are mentioned several times in the Bible. And that's a different tribe, and they've been at war for a long time. And now you have a tribal warfare going on in Libya against a very brutal thug named Muammar Gaddafi. Having said that, we also need to recognize that the people in the east, the Syrenes, those that are fighting against Muammar Gaddafi, are the very group of people that we keep capturing in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are the foreign fighters, the jihadists that are coming into Iraq and Afghanistan to fight against the American and Polish infidels. So there are no good guys in this fight, I can assure you. Now, people have asked me what my position is on the no-fly zone, and I was on with Judge Napolitano the other day on Fox News, and he asked me a question, and I must tell you, this is a complex question. It really is a complex question. There's not an easy answer to it. But as I've pondered this thing, I must tell you that my personal assessment of this is that the United States should not be involved in this no-fly zone. That separates me from many of my conservative friends. I must tell you that many conservatives today are crying out for the U.S. to take the leading role in the no-fly zone, and I don't concur with that. I don't concur with what we've done. And again, it's a difficult issue, but here's why I'm very concerned about it. I'm concerned because we responded to an international request for U.S. military involvement. And I feel very strongly that when the United States commits our sons and daughters and our prestige as Americans to combat operations, that there has to be some oversight by the Congress of the United States. Yes. The Congress of the United States are our representatives. They represent you and me. They should at least be informed. But this idea of responding to this notional international community only feeds, in my view, one thing, and that feeds this concept of a global government, one world government. And trust me when I tell you, there is a huge effort outside of the United States as well as inside of the United States to move America into being part of this one world government. Now let me tell you, all these veterans sitting out here, we took that oath. We took that oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Nothing else. The Constitution of the United States. That Constitution makes us a sovereign nation, a nation of laws, but not to support some global organization, some international group that believes that they can reach in and pluck out our military capabilities to be used anytime they want to. I don't support that. The second point is this: there are no good guys there. I'm sorry for the human tragedy. We should do all we can to relieve the human suffering in terms of humanitarian assistance. No question about it. But there are no good guys there. We should not think that we're taking sides with the guys that wear the white hats, because we're not. Third point is this. Gaddafi has all the staying power that he needs to be there for a long time. He's got estimates of about $39 billion. He can hire his own security forces out of places like South Africa and other parts of the African continent. Security forces, mercenaries that will come in and help protect him. He can buy new equipment. He can continue this fight for a very long time. So what if he's still in power 6 months from now? What about American prestige? What has happened to American prestige if Gaddafi is still there? And we've accomplished essentially very little. The other thing is that I am greatly concerned because for 2 decades the Europeans have been reducing their defense spending. They have reduced their military capabilities to nothing but a bare bones operation. And we've been telling them, our members of NATO, our allies in NATO, we've been telling them, you can't do this. But they've always done this to pay for their social programs. The whole continent of Europe is a socialist continent. And they have reduced their defense spending so they can spend their money on their social programs. Because they've always known that the U.S. would maintain robust military capabilities, and the U.S. would always be there when they needed it. Now they have far more at stake in Libya than the United States has. They get more of their oil from Libya, and they have a great concern about all the refugees pouring across out of North Africa into southern Europe. They have more at stake than we do. And when they need a military capability that they don't have, they do exactly what they intended to do all along. They turn back to the United States and say, would you do this for us? And I don't mean to sound callous, but my attitude is, we told you this 2 decades ago. We told you 2 decades ago that you could not continue cutting your defense spending and expect that you were going to be able to handle problems on your own time. And I do not think that it is right that the United States should bail them out. Now, those who advocate for it talk about the American prestige and American leadership role and so forth, and I would simply say America is taking the lead. We're still in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that the idea that America should step up and lead this kind of operation is ill-conceived. That is my personal opinion. And the final thing is this. If we're going to do this in Libya, then where does it stop? Because in Bahrain, we have the same general situation. Where just the other day, in an hour, they killed 40 people. In Yemen, they just killed some people. They're rising up against their governments. And by the way, everybody in that part of the world is a despot or a dictator. Iraq and Israel are the only 2 democracies in that part of the world. Everybody else is a dictator. And where do we draw the line? Are we going to do this now in Bahrain? Are we going to do it in Yemen? We're going to do it in Syria. We're going to go in and establish no-fly zones as these dictators respond to their own uprisings by threatening or killing their own people. Where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? But most importantly, what are we going to do when the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, who routinely fire rockets and missiles over into Israel, go to the United Nations and say, we want a no-fly zone to stop the Israeli jets from attacking us? Where does it stop? And how are we going to respond to that international request? We're a sovereign nation. We're the most powerful nation in the world. We ought to be proud of who we are. But I do believe with all my heart that we may need at this point to be very careful how we commit our forces. First of all, our military is stretched very thin. Our young men and women are fighting today and their 5th, 6th, 7th rotations into Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think that we need to think through this very carefully. I believe our prestige is now on the line because we've made a commitment to do this. And I'm very, very concerned about it.